Welcome to the Idaho Business Podcast, the only Idaho podcast focused on providing profits for Idaho people. If you love our state and love small business, you are in the right place. We interview local legends, learn business, and have way too much fun doing it. You're listening to the Idaho Business Podcast with your friend, host, and all-around great guy and owner of New Clean Commercial Cleaning, Spencer Ward.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Idaho Business Podcast. As always, we're sponsored by Health West. Great organization, great providers, great people. Give them a Google, find out whether they're closest to you, and go and see what they can do for you. Go and visit them, give them a chance. They're great. All right. You know, we've talked a lot about a lot of different subjects this year so far. I wanted to get back on the sales and marketing for a minute. I was on another podcast, and I'll share that here later on our site and our social media. And it was a sales podcast, and it was and they were asking me about different sales stuff and what. So I just figured, why don't I just go through some of those questions again, because it's so important, especially as new entrepreneurs, new business owners, and even business owners and business leaders that have been in the game for a while. It's important to have this reminder about sales and the importance of strategies and this type of thing. So one of the questions he asked was, why is an effective selling particularly crucial for success and growth of small to medium-sized businesses? Well, it's the lifeblood. It's the lifeblood of your business. When you're first starting out, let's just say this: when you're first starting out, you're a new business owner, you're a new business leader, you want to do the fun stuff. I get it. It's fun. It's easy. It's fun to build a logo. It's fun to build a website, that kind of stuff. Talk about you and everything you can do. But what you don't understand, and it's going to be a little humbling for you to get there, is no one cares. No one cares about your logo. No one cares about your website. No one cares about your credentials. In a way, obviously they want to make sure that if you're a roofer, that you actually know how to roof and you can do a good job. But if you're constantly talking about you, I, we, us on your website, using those type of words, they don't care. Talk about them, how we're going to help you, like how, you change your verbiage, stop talking about us and I, and start talking about you as the client and how we can help your potential clients, not just blabber on about everything that you are doing and all the technology you have. And it's good to display some of that stuff, but do it in a way that it's providing value to your client, not to just showcase, this is how great I am. So, but when it comes to sales, okay, let's get into that for a minute. If you're not bringing in sales, you're not eating, especially as a small company. If you have a family, you're responsible for these people, and you got to get out there and do some stuff. You got to bring some sales in. Now, there's ways that you can go about that, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But bringing sales in is great, but that's not the solve all. Now, many people don't know their numbers. So if you're selling and selling and selling and selling, I've been there before, selling, but yet maybe you don't know your labor costs. Maybe you don't know your supply costs, and you are leaking, you're hemorrhaging money out the other side because you're not factoring the proper costs into your bids and as you're making sales. So you're not bringing in the right revenue. It's revenue, but it's not the right revenue. So your business is bringing in revenue, but are you keeping any for yourself? So just because you're bringing in sales does not mean your company, your business is viable. You got to make sure you plug the holes in the boat. Meaning, if you're not a numbers guy, And believe me, I was not a numbers guy. I'm still not fond of numbers. But now I look at percentages. I know what I'm looking for because I've surrounded myself with awesome people, awesome bookkeeper, awesome CPAs. I've got a consultant. I surround myself with smart people. So I know what I'm looking for. I've been taught how to do things properly. And if you don't know these things, find someone who does, someone who understands maybe your industry. Find a CPA like I know Cooper Norman, Dan Packer, that's been on our podcast several times, has offered to do a free evaluation of your business where he can tell you what, in general sense, what your industry usually is making for the net profit realms. So you have kind of a starting point to know, okay, that's what I need to be shooting for. So have those kind of things in place before you start going, just going nuts and trying to sell and sell and sell, because you can sell yourself out of business if you don't plug the holes. So, what are some of the common misconceptions or mistakes that some small business owners make when it comes to sales? That's number one, is they're constantly bringing in sales without plugging the holes. So plug those holes. Second one is it's all about you. You're doing it. Oh, I got to make this sell. Oh, because I got to make this money. No, you got to change. Yeah, money's great, and bringing in that revenue is awesome. But you got to tweak it a little bit. How do I provide value? Because as soon as you can really find that in yourself and in your business, that how do I truly provide value to these customers and potential customers, that's when you start to see a change, a flip in the script, and people start to seek you out a little bit more. Because you're no longer the fly-by-night used car salesman type. You're someone who's trusted. You're someone who really does care about your clients, and it shows. So find ways to provide value. What are some things that you can do for those clients? And maybe some extras, some surprise and delights that you can do for your customers that maybe it shows value to them, but cost you very little to do. Just to say, hey, this is our bid, this was our services, but guess what? While we were up there, we saw X, Y, and Z while we're fixing this. We just took care of it for you, no extra charge. To a certain extent, if it's going to be a lot of money and you notice something huge, go talk to the homeowner or the business owner and have that conversation. But if it's something small, provide value, and it's going to cost you maybe a couple bucks, $50 or whatever it is. Provide value, and it's going to come back to you tenfold, I promise you. So when it comes to putting together your KPIs and your metrics, what should you be tracking? We track a lot as a small business. We track how many people are from even the hiring standpoint of things, because if you're not hiring and you don't have the manpower, the sales you're bringing in are kind of a moot point, because you got to have the manpower to service the sales. So we track how many people are applying for jobs every month, how many people are showing up for interviews every month, how many people are going from interviews to actually being hired. So we know those percentages. Okay, we actually know how many people are stopping working for us every month. And that way we can find out if this is a trend, like a seasonal trend, because our businesses are seasonal. Not seasonal in nature, but we know with the hiring, there's some ebbs and flows within the seasons where people tend to quit more often, and then certain seasons people are wanting to get hired on more. That's what I meant by that. So, or is it maybe a change in management, or is it change in the way we're onboarding employees? What is it? So you can track things that way and fix things quickly. When it comes to sales, what we're tracking, we're literally tracking how many leads are coming in, how many leads are turning into bids, how many bids are turning into sales, and how many, and then knowing the percentages of all those. So when we know those percentages, and then we know where the leads are coming from, is it Google, is it Facebook, is it a flyer that we sent out, is it a snail mail postcard, or is it a door hanger, whatever it is, track all of it. Is it a billboard? Because once you're tracking all of it, then hey, I'm having some good success in this medium, I'm going to just dial it up a little bit more here, and it's going to churn out more money because over the last few months, it's shown I'm getting X amount of leads. It's turning into this kind of bids scenario, and I'm closing this percentages of bids into sales. Then those stats, crank the volume, crank the stat, and you just put the more money to that, and you can literally just dial up the sales that way. So, but you have to have this kind of stuff into place. You have to have marketing efforts going in. Like, it's not all about Facebook and Google and Instagram for all industries. Some industries it just doesn't work that well. That being said, I still do it, but I think there's some grassroots stuff that needs to happen. Sometimes you see the yard signs, the door hangers, that kind of stuff. If you are all working cohesively with an online campaign and funneling everyone that's getting either the door hanger or the snail mail postcard, if it's all funneling them into the same campaign, I think that's effective. And we've seen that being effective. So find ways to be creative in your marketing and make stuff happen. So that's a big one, guys and gals. So when it comes to sales, people are, you can be out there thinking, well, what if I'm not very good at sales? What if I'm uncomfortable to go talk to people? What if it's your business though? If you're a business owner, you're thinking that to yourself, do you want to eat? That's what my response to you. Do you want to eat? Do you want your company to succeed? It's a little tough love moment here. You gotta do it. You're the one that chose to open up a business. You got to do something. You gotta channel that inner David Goggins and make something happen. Set some goals every day and say, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna at least talk to X amount of people, and I'm going to have this kind of outcome. Set some strategic goals to make those things happen. If you don't, you can't manage what you don't measure. So that's something my consultant said to me years ago, and I am a huge fan of that because we can just say we have a great company, see all of our trucks, see all this, see all of our whatever it is. But if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your metrics, that's a scary spot to be. So take the time, if you don't know it now, take the time to meet with a good CPA, meet with a good consultant, and go over some things, because I guarantee there's some things you can tweak. So many people get into a bad way because they are thinking, okay, they're doing very elementary math when it comes to bidding. So say you're providing a service and they're like, okay, I've got an employee. I pay him $14 an hour. Okay. So if I'm paying that employee $14 an hour, they're thinking in their mind, okay, that's just $14 an hour going up. Well, number one, that's wrong. We'll get to that later. So then they're thinking, okay, well, if I charge $5 more an hour, okay, then I'm making $5 more than $5 off of that employee. Okay, you're wrong again. Typically, sorry, I got a fly in my studio today. It varies industry to industry depending on your insurance rates, your workers' comp rates, all that kind of stuff. You got to factor that kind of stuff into your hourly rate. What's your average hourly rate? It's not, if you're paying someone $14 an hour, $15 an hour, whatever it is, it's more than that. It is more than that. So if you're paying someone, for example, in my industry, we have lower workers' comp rates, lower insurance rates. If we're paying someone $17 an hour, it's costing me close to $22 an hour. People don't realize that, and they're bidding wrong. But then they stop there thinking, okay, that's all I have to worry about. No, you're wrong again. You're forgetting about the supplies you're buying. You're forgetting about the people in your overhead. Maybe do you have a manager that's not working hourly in these projects that aren't really part of your cost of goods sold, meaning they're not actively out there working on the projects. They're over here, either doing some admin work for you or whatever it may be. they're in your overhead category. They're in your cost of goods sold. And you have to account for them and what you're paying them in each bid. It's not you're not covering all of their salary in each bid. That's crazy, but you have to account. Know your percentages. What's the percentage of your cost of goods sold compared to your revenue? What's the percentage of your overhead compared to your revenue? What's the percentage of your net profit? So that's kind of thing when you're going to bid, you got to put all that stuff into thinking and put proper numbers to your bids, because people get themselves into trouble and think, oh, I'm going to be so cheap. I can do it for so cheap. I can do this and this and this. Well, then you get into trouble and you get in on the job and you're like, well, shoot, I'm not making any money. So then I've got to, the fly by night companies are like, okay, well, I've got to cut corners to make any kind of money. And that's not how you want to bid. That's not how you add value to people. Don't do that. So know your numbers. That's a big one. We'll go over and over again on that. So when it comes to one of these, like, for example, he asked me, what advice would you give for hiring a salesperson, and what size would you need to be for hiring a salesperson? I have not. We're getting bigger and bigger, but we have not we're not at the point that we have hired a full-time salesperson. It's pretty much me. I do a lot of the sales activities. We have some other people in our organization that assist in this kind of stuff. But you've got to think, is your industry ready for this type of jump? What can you do in the meantime to keep sales alive? And maybe it's not even right to have a full-time salesperson for your industry. So that's something I think, just because your neighbor down the road who's in a completely different industry and he or she has a full-time salesperson or a team of salespeople, doesn't mean it's necessarily the best thing for you and your business and your industry. So take it day by day, and I'm going to constantly go back to know your numbers. Know your numbers. Once you know your numbers, you know how you can fit them into your overhead. They should maybe be a little bit in the overhead category, but then a good salesperson should be able to quickly wash with the sales what you're paying them in salary plus the commissions that they're going to be earning. So that's a big one, guys and gals. So when it comes to sales, just know there's so much out there at our fingertips. The technology that we have, AI stuff that's being driven. There's chatbots. But put a CRM system together. That's key. And if you're thinking, oh, that's too much money. No, AI is actually super, super cheap. It's actually a lot cheaper to have AI like chatbots, which is, having someone communicate with, or a computer communicate with people that are chatting with you on Facebook or websites that you are training. So it's literally you're in your voice that you've trained these chatbots how to respond in your voice. So they're still getting what you want to say. And they're good. The guy that trained me on them said, they're so good that people will ask these chatbots out on dates because they think they are humans. There's so much stuff like that that's available to us to help you and your business to succeed and to channel people through the sales funnel, that you should be taking advantage of it. It's so much cheaper than hiring more staff to manage messages on your Facebook accounts or be an admin person that just worries about that kind of stuff. So if you're stuck in the old ways thinking, oh, I can't do this AI stuff, or I can't do the Instagram stuff, or whatever it is, you're wrong. Things are changing. You've got to change too. So I'm not here to, stomp on your dreams at all. I'm just trying to tell you things are changing. You can't be that guy that's standing at the 4th of July parade only having snakes and sparklers at his fireworks stand. You got to have some other tools, other things that you have at your disposal to get the people going and get the sales coming in, because the snakes and the sparklers aren't bringing the sales in anymore. So I hope some of these things are helpful for you guys today. it was a good reminder for me when I was talking to this guy. And I'll say one more thing. He asked me a question here is, how critical is it for small businesses to clearly define their unique value proposition when selling? Everyone needs to have a differentiator. Okay. I know I talk about roofers. I don't know why that always comes to my mind. I have no idea. If you gave me a roofing hammer and some nails, I could make a roof look real bad. But I like to use that analogy. But don't be the same. Don't be the same as the other companies. Find something that's going to make you stand out. That's going to make you stand above the crowd. Not just because you have snazzy trucks or whatever, good logos. That's not a unique value, proposition. That's not a differentiator. Find a guarantee that you can stand by. Find something that makes you different, that you can provide more value to your customers than your competition. And it's just another way that you can stay ahead of what's going on around you. So again, you guys have a great week. We're sponsored by my company, New Clean Commercial Cleaning and Commercial Cleaning Services. But be happy, be grateful, and find opportunities to serve others. Adios. See you later.
Congratulations on spending a couple of minutes getting a little bit smarter, having some fun, and supporting the Idaho business community. If you're feeling the love, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you are.